Welcome back, everybody. Today we're discussing Loki, episode 3.
What exactly makes a Loki a Loki?
Independence, authority, style.
This episode continued the story of Loki squared and revealed that her name is actually Sylvie, which means the creative gods behind the MCU have decided to combine Lady Loki and the comic goddess, the Enchantress, into the same character, I believe. At least for now, it's important to remember that these are considered variants and not the true characters that the Timekeepers would want us to consider valid. Of course, you know my thoughts on that, and I say they are valid AF, and I think we can infer that the showrunners may want to keep them around to further solidify this valid status. I think it's pretty likely that this character will survive the series and become a part of the main MCU lineup, while Loki will likely be killed off during the finale. I feel like that would make the most sense in terms of telling this story without, devaluing the Loki that we came to know and love as a part of the sacred timeline. Again, I think this story ends with the multiverse coming into existence, with these two doing their damnedest to stop the Timekeepers from continuing their plot to control all of sentient free will in the known universe.
You again.
The episode overall stayed in the aftermath of them escaping from the TVA in episode 2, and the reason that we never saw them tracked down is because they were busy dealing with the aftermath of the timeline attack. I loved how this episode started, showing us the powerful implications of her powers firsthand and just how damaging they can be. I still think there are plenty more to explore in this regard, and she may have more tricks up her sleeve because, Loki. We learn that she is going after the Timekeepers who rest beyond a golden elevator at the TVA. Right before they access those gilded doors, the Judge appears and they escape into another apocalypse. The mystical TVA technology doesn't use Duracell, and we have the plot of the rest of the episode. They are stranded on a doomed planet with the only option being murder. They have a brief moral discussion about stealing the power source from the huddled masses hoping to escape, and decide that their lives don't matter in the grand scheme of things because they are doomed anyway, which is an extraordinary point for them to address right now. I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that when the Timekeepers plot is revealed, they will be able to defend that shit like a first-generation college student defending their thesis on why chocolate ice cream is categorically better than vanilla ice cream, which it is. And they will say that they have weighed the moral consideration for the lives of everybody that they currently control and still believe that they are making the right choice to decide which timeline and which version of everybody gets to exist. Loki squared so quickly deciding that it would be cool to steal from this civilization's entire hope of existence and continued existence after this apocalypse highlights this exact same equation. They believe in their greater good, and regardless of how it ends, like the Timekeepers, they would sacrifice others for their continued existence. I hope that this comes up when everybody meets and the Timekeepers can really highlight how their plan is right, because they aren't doing anything that the Lokis wouldn't do if they were in their position. They discuss Sylvie's plan and how it would create a power vacuum. This is something that I discussed in my last breakdown, where the Timekeepers may be preventing something that they deem far worse than everybody losing free will. Trying to prevent something from taking over that would ultimately mean the end of time, more than just the multiverse war leading to some unknown and undefined destruction of everything. I think that this could be Galactus or Kang the Conqueror or any number of these large threats that still exist on this universal level. This is Loki acknowledging that when their plan succeeds, hopefully it succeeds, if they don't have a backup plan for someone to take over, these greater threats will arise, and they will kind of be on the hook for causing all of it. Sylvie said that her plan was years in the making, which has a few implications that I think guarantee some flashbacks to her learning about her place in the universe and how she becomes a variation. Her being born female may have been that trigger, which would imply that she's either been running her entire life or she may also be trans. If you think about it, when this Loki picks up the Tesseract, he gets shot across the desert. It is seconds before he is picked up by the TVA. That is their efficient strategy. That's how they operate. For Sylvie to be assigned female at birth, that would have been the variation from the sacred timeline where we know a male Loki is what the Timekeepers need for their plot. On screen now are some of the other variations of Loki that we saw a couple episodes ago, and none of them are presenting as female. I think that is because if a female Loki was ever created, they likely never saw the light of day, meaning the Timekeepers were baby killers or pre-baby killers. Whenever that detected chromosome is assigned to the child, they would then, send someone to take care of that timeline. And I think that would just further drive home the point that they are the bad guys here.
What the hell is that?
It's a baby we found in the trash.
Well, put it back. It doesn't belong to you.
Also, she had a very vocal response to being called Loki. This was clearly something that she didn't want, even from another Loki. She is Sylvie now. This feels like Disney slowly exploring the concepts of something very common in the trans community, and that is dead naming, purposefully being called your pre-transition name as a way to disregard or reduce who you are now. It would also make sense if this story is genuinely about, exploring free will and how the Timekeepers are bad because they are literally removing people's ability to be who they want to be. I mean, the Loki that they allowed to exist is the failure Loki that leads others to greatness. That is heartbreaking. Every Loki that has ever made a good choice is then, exterminated because they're not needed. But what better way to express this in this moral dilemma than having the lead be a transgender woman who is outright told that she is wrong for existing? I believe this Loki realized that she was a woman, and that was the trigger that then sent the TVA to stop her from existing as her true self. All because she didn't fit into the Timekeeper's perfect timeline. It is poetic as fuck. It's perfect. It's exploring these grand ideas of gender and free will in a way that I think honestly makes so much sense in today's political climate and is a good way to educate those that otherwise don't know about this. I feel like this series, if they execute this correctly, could be remembered as a beacon for the trans community who are terribly underrepresented in today's media. In an interview with Kevin Feige back in 2020, when asked if a transgender character was ever going to exist in the MCU, he said, yes, very soon. So yeah, that's the trans Loki theory, and I really hope that it's true. I feel like Disney has a huge opportunity to naturally integrate trans people into this story without it feeling forced or disingenuous. A lot of companies are pushing the rainbow for Pride Month because, give me that money, baby. But this is a story with aliens and magic, and non-binary people existing in this realm is something that could definitely happen. Trans people need this shit so much more than I think people realize. I posted a theory as a short when I first thought of this, and people were actively telling me that this wouldn't be for children. Imagine you just existing right now, you chilling, listening to some fucking dude on the internet and being told that you shouldn't be shown or exist around children just because of what you look like and who you are. I couldn't fathom that level of hurt. I feel like these people don't realize that they were the Timekeepers all along. I swear that is about to be the moral of this story. This kind of hatred makes my skin crawl, and I'll be damned if I don't use my platform to call you fuckboys out every chance I get. You do not want this fucking heat in any timeline. This is a call out to every fan that I have. If you see hatred, you speak the fuck up. Back in the show, though, the episode overall was great. I love the exploration of both of their powers, and seeing again how this Loki and the sacred timeline Loki are different, I think is very important. I loved the lighting of this planet, and yeah, overall, I think it was great, but a little uneventful. I think the only issue I had with this episode was the scene where they are finally in the city and the world is crashing down around them. Two things came to mind. First, why are they fighting people right now? Like, why do they care, right? Why do these guards care? How do they recognize them? How is this situation created? They just entered here and we're fighting. I don't know. It just felt so random. The moon breaks, they run into this place, they aren't fighting anybody, and then boom, all these guards just decide to attack and manifest from nowhere. Why? I mean, the moon of your planet just split in two. It's about to crash into you. Run. Second, this sequence was high octane and well designed, but the entire time that I was watching it, I felt a pretty big disconnect between it and the actors. Like, they should have been given more interactive elements or something to better sell that they were a part of this world and not just running in a green screen room. Other than that, Loki continues to impress, and I cannot wait for the next. I think the only thing left to speculate about this episode is how they managed to get off the world, and I think the answer is obvious. they're doomed. They're dead. I don't know. I think they'll either die or be captured. They need to do something that creates another branch of the timeline that the TVA would then be able to detect and need to squash out while they're dealing with all of the other branches as well. Them coming to this planet would be the only way to get another magic space tablet, and the best way for them to create this branch would have actually been to help the ship escape the planet, meaning this civilization would have survived their certain demise and then be, a deviation from the sacred timeline course of events. But that clearly did not happen, so what will? And with that, we come to the end of the episode. Oh, and this happened.
You're a prince. Must have been would-be princesses. Or perhaps another prince.
A bit of both.
I just want to give a special shout out to everyone that supports this channel and supports me. I know this video was a little more intense at the end, and I'm probably not going to get monetized for that. But I know that I don't always talk about everything that I think that I am expected to talk about. But, this is my art. It's my message. And unless I am hyper fixated on something, it really doesn't bring me joy to talk about it critically. I want to exist outside of the sacred timeline of reviews that follow the same structure. You don't need everything pointed out and saying that you missed 30 Easter eggs that were clearly in front of everybody's face. This isn't me calling out any creator at all. If you make those videos, if you watch those videos, great. I love them myself. But this is me explaining why I create the content that I do and thanking everybody that sticks around and supports me for what I make. This thank you also extends to the people that support me over on Patreon, including the OG monthly highest tier donor, Michael Linck. Much love, everybody, and thank you for commenting, sharing, and liking this video. I cannot wait to talk to you all again soon.